This is a cell. But not just any cell, like one of those 30 trillion ordinary model citizens in the average human. It comes from within the lungs, or more precisely, the epithelium that lines the surfaces. At some point over the past few generations, its ancestors have slowly forgotten the etiquette of being a good neighbor, picking up boring habits one after another until eventually turning into microscopic psychopaths. These are cancer cells, more specifically non-small cell lung cancer cells. And this one in particular, who is swelling up with ambition and feeling a bit on edge, is aspiring to become the Columbus of its kind. Following the light of the sun, we left the old world. Welcome on board as we embark on the journey to explore the mechanisms involved in non-small cell lung cancer metastasis, and as you'll soon find out, it's going to be a rough ride for you and the cancer cells both. If there ever is a league of cancers, lung cancer will undoubtedly claim first place. This is accountable for nearly a quarter of all cancer deaths worldwide, that is more than colorectal, breast, and prostate cancer combined. 85% of lung cancer cases are non-small cell lung cancer, consisting of adenocarcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and large cell carcinoma, with most of them emerging in the outer edges of the lungs, close to pleural cavity. Much like rebels going rogue, cancer cells uprising is sure to be met with fierce opposition. Immune cells including CD8-positive T cells, natural killer or NK cells, dendritic cells, and macrophages all participate directly in the identification and elimination of cancerous cells, aiming to nip any tumor in their buds. These cancer cells, of course, are not planning to throw in the towels as they come up with ingenious strategies to deal with each. CD8-positive tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, as its name suggests, infiltrates cancerous cell mass and are capable of inflicting damage through secreting cytokines and granzymes. Cancer cells, however, can evade these cytotoxic effects through expressing PD-L1 on its surface, which binds to PD-1 on CD8-positive cells and effectively shutting them down. NK cells suffer a similar fate. Cancer cells oversecrete and express a cocktail of molecules including PGE2, HLA-E, and FASN, leading to severely diminished functions in NK cells. Some immune cells can even be recruited and corrupted by cancer cells and turn against their former allies. Dendritic cells isolated in SCLC are often found to be overexpressing PD-L1, suppressing T cell and NK cell anti-tumoral effects. Macrophages can also tend to differentiate into M2 macrophages in the tumor microenvironment, which possess potent pro-tumorigenic functions through promoting tissue invasion and angiogenesis. With the local immune system crippled, surely now the tumor can proliferate prolifically, right? Actually, not yet. The truth is, cancer cells can grow beyond about 150 micrometers away from blood vessels, thus extreme hypoxia guarantees its demise. Angiogenesis is, therefore, a must for any sizable expansion of an SCLC. An upregulation of HIF-1 alpha expression is often discovered in cancer cells, which in turn stimulates VEGF secretion. Also, remember the M2 macrophages? FGF signaling for M2A and PIGF signaling for M2C are believed to be behind their pro-angiogenesis capability. These pathways combined enables tumor growth and ensures enough oxygen supply to each cell. Well, barely enough. You see, subsistence-level oxygen supply means that tumor cells are routinely exposed to hypoxia. This is not necessarily a problem, though, and as you have seen already, cancer is an expert in converting obstacles into opportunities. Not only does hypoxia protect tumor cells from oxidative stress, but EMT incidents are also more frequent in hypoxic tumor tissues. Aberrant overexpression of beta-catenin, PP10, and TWIS associated with tissue hypoxia are all correlated with increased occurrences of EMT. So, how is EMT relevant? Epithelial to mesenchymal transition is a key requisite for distant metastasis to occur alongside other cell motility enhancements. After all, if we're rooted in one place, then I guess you can't invade. M2 macrophages, perhaps unsurprisingly, also facilitates EMT through secreting vast amounts of TGF-beta, which activates the TGF-beta SMAD2 pathway. When it comes to navigating through extracellular matrix though, cancer cells develop laminopodia and invadopodia. Since these amoeba-like extensions are supported by actin fibers, it makes sense when cortactin and actin-binding protein paramount in producing membrane protrusions are found overexpressed in NSCLC cells. TSK5 and beta-3 integrin, both being indispensable in invadopodia formation, have heightened levels as well. On the other hand, Nexin-9, which inhibits invadopodia formation, are often themselves victims of inhibition in cancerous cells. But why bother squeezing your way through ECM if you can simply break it down? Myofibroblasts, which are recruited by tumor and M2 macrophage-secreted TGF-beta, can secrete MMPs to directly degrade ECM, even penetrating through basement membranes. And what's on the other side? Blood vessels poised for tumor cell intravasation. From this point onwards, the question is no longer how to spread, but rather where to spread, as cancer cells enter circulation and are carried around the body with every pulse and heartbeat. Tourism hotspots for NSCLC are numerous, with bone, brain, and liver being the most frequent victims of metastasis. Given that upwards to 80% of all NSCLC death can be attributed to organ metastasis, there's a pressing need to uncover more of their underlying mechanisms for future drug targeting. Compared to the brain or the liver, bones might not occur to most people as a popular holiday resort for NSCLC, with one having strength 5 times that of steel ounce for ounce and the other the equivalent of a weir-shaped balloon. But truth be told, bone is the most frequented site of NSCLC metastasis, even ranked above another tumor in the opposite lung. As such, multiple homing mechanisms that presumably guide intravasate tumor cells to the bones have been proposed. DDR1, a cell surface receptor that binds to collagens, are overexpressed in most lung adenocarcinomas, facilitating attachment of circulating tumor cells to collagen-1 in osteons. CXCR3 and 4 pathways are also suspected to play a role, though not as clearly established as DDR1. Getting to a place is one thing and settling there is another. How do tumor cells actually manage to bite into steel? The short answer is, they don't have to. Tumor cells hijack osteoclasts, cells that routinely break down bone tissue for maintenance purposes, through secreting rancor. These signals send nearby osteoclasts into a feeding frenzy, drilling holes in the bones too fast and too much for repair workers, the osteoblasts, to patch up. This process, termed osteolysis, is accelerated with the release of TGF-beta from cancer cells and M2 macrophages, which in turn upregulates more osteolytic factors and suppresses osteoblastic activities further. The end product of such a vicious cycle is none other than an osteoclastic metastasis. Things, however, get a bit more treacherous when tumor cells have their sights on the liver. Unlike the bones with nothing but passive defense, the liver is putting up an actual fight. The forefront of this battle is located in the liver sinusoids, where cancer cells clash into liver sinusoidal endothelial cells. Through secreting TNF-alpha and IFN-gamma, LSEC can mount an effective assault on CTC, eliminating them through induced apoptosis and etosis respectively. Cancer cells, being nothing but adaptive, downregulates TNFR1 and PD-L1 to neutralize these threats. Also, have we mentioned that LSCC are fenestrated? Gaps across the epithelium grant CTC direct contact access to the basement membrane littered with adhesive receptors such as integrins for them to hold onto. Breaching the basement membrane and marching into masses of hepatocytes, tumor cells will be pleasantly surprised to receive a warm welcome, as hepatocytes offer them a stay by upregulating E-cadherin in tumor cells, a fatal mistake indeed as it facilitates mesenchymal to epithelial transition necessary for metastasis establishment and subsequent growth. The brain is said by some to be the most complex piece of machinery in the entire universe, therefore naturally, cancer cells have a lot of ground to cover to outsmart any defense it may encounter. For starters, blood-brain barrier is brilliant at blocking breaches. However, NSCLC tumor cells are capable of degrading glycocalyx, a protecting lining of the BBB endothelium, exposing E-selectin underneath for adhesion. Latching on, tumor cells must now figure out a way to conquer the usually tough basement membrane. Lucky for them, they are not struggling alone. TNF-alpha, constantly secreted by the original tumor, has already compromised BBB integrity long before their arrival by downregulating Claudin-5 expression through the NF-kappa-B pathway. Talk about planning ahead. Unlike the liver, the brain packed its defensive squad on the inside rather than the outside. Microglia, brain's private special forces, promote inflammation to deter metastatic progression. Lipopolysaccharide-activated microglia in particular induce apoptosis in tumor cells. Resilient cancer cells, however, amplifies WNT3A pathway to shift microglia to M2 phenotype, severely eroding their cytotoxic effects. Astrocytes, another type of glial cell, secretes plasmin to trigger tumor cell death, only to be countered by neuroserpins and serpin beta-2 released by their foe. Making matters worse, a subgroup of astrocytes, called reactive astrocytes, release pro-tumorigenic substances and MMPs, making metastasis all the more easier inside the brain. So there we have it, a comprehensive but by no means complete narrative of NSCLC metastasis. Much like humans dreaming of creating colonies on the moon or on Mars, cancer cells have their own aspirations of expansionism. Much like the unique challenges involved in each of our space programs, cancer cells have countless mountains to surmount. And much like how our civilization will eventually span multiple systems, cancerous tumors will find its way to eventually span multiple systems as well. One small step for tumor, one giant leap for cancer. This is the story of cancer cells, non-small cell lung cancer cells.